When we're talking about taxes and bankruptcy, and actually this question came up quite a bit this week, so the IRS, when you owe them money and you file bankruptcy, you could either file Chapter 7 or Chapter 13 as an individual consumer debtor. Let's talk specifically about Chapter 13 because in Chapter 13, as you may know, you're paying back certain debts over time. Okay? So in Chapter 13, when you're paying back these debts, some of those debts may be IRS debts. Well, the IRS debt may be a priority claim, meaning that it's a debt that has to be paid back into Chapter 13. It may be a secured claim. Let's say the IRS has filed a levy against you. Well, when the IRS levies against you, they're taking their claim to a new level. And they're saying, you may have property, but now we're going to solidify it. We're going to say, we're going to put a lien on that stuff. So the IRS has a lien, and the IRS may levy against certain assets, meaning we're going to go out and grab them and take them, like a bank account or something like that. When they do that, they've become what's called a secured creditor because now they have collateral which secures that debt. It's a rather extreme measure for the IRS to take, but they do it in certain circumstances where they're not getting paid. Then you may have old IRS debt, meet the qualifications of the test, that has become what's considered aged debt, and therefore it's dischargeable in the bankruptcy, meaning it's an unsecured, non-priority claim. So you got one type of debt where there's collateral that's secured, and that gets paid in the bankruptcy with interest. You've got a priority claim, which gets paid, but it's unsecured, so they don't get paid interest on their claim. And then you've got unsecured non-priority, which are treated just like personal obligations, medical bills, gas cards, store cards, any type of unsecured claim where there's no collateral. If you owe $10 to your sister, unsecured claim, the IRS gets treated the same way. So if there is a pro rata share that's getting paid out on this unsecured debt, let's say it's 10 cents on the dollar, then the IRS would be included in that. Or that portion of the IRS claim would get the 10 cents on the dollar, and then when you get your discharge, the remaining 90% of all the unsecured debt would be discharged. But the good part about it is when you're paying back the IRS debt in the bankruptcy on that unsecured the priority claim unsecured, that's the one that has to be paid back in the bankruptcy. When you're paying that back, you can actually pay them back without interest or penalties, which is fantastic because when you file the case, that debt is included in the bankruptcy. You tell the IRS you're going to pay them, so theoretically under the bankruptcy code, that debt can't incur additional interest because it's unsecured, which is good. Now, there may be some arguments that need to be made where they can receive some type of, what do you call it? Magic of live TV, right, folks? Where they can receive some sort of interest payment. That's another argument for a later day, mostly legal arguments, so I'm not going to bore you with those details. But really, folks, if you have an IRS debt and you have other debts as well, you really want to sit down with a bankruptcy attorney and explore that option. And the reason why is when you're thinking about bankruptcy, you got to think of it as not this B word like the other B word. You want to think of it as bankruptcy, an option or planning for the future. I like to call it financial planning for the future because theoretically what you're doing is creating a financial plan in the bankruptcy. You can expand upon that after the bankruptcy is over because now you have no more debts, or there are certain debts that you've kept and you're paying, like a mortgage, but all the rest is gone. So now your financial plan is in place. Now you're building upon it and going stronger and stronger and stronger financially. That's the goal of bankruptcy, to get you out, get a discharge, and get you on a new financial plan, whatever that plan may be. Some people's plans are bigger, some people's plans are smaller. The theory is get you out so you can get back into the world. If you're going to borrow money, great, go borrow money and buy a car, and then really start building yourself up. The goal of my position is to pay off all debt as quickly as possible and live a debt-free lifestyle. That's another question for later. Anyhow, so hopefully that answers the question from the young lady who sent me about the IRS debt and how we could pay it back.